Hi, good morning. It's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing PR, the editor of Punchline magazine. Welcome to Punchline Talks, the business breakfast briefers. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I got a fantastic panel joining us this morning to talk about the news, the views, and what's happening in their own individual business sectors and their own individual businesses as well. Today, I've got Darren Stevens from Marketing Gloucester, Sam Holliday from the Federation of Small Business. I'd always like to do his title is Development Manager, covering Gloucestershire, Bristol, Bath and South Gloucestershire. Then we got Vikki Walters from Gloucestershire County Council. She's also got the longest job title in the history of job title, Strategic Lead of Inclusive Employment, Integrated Disabilities Commissioning Hub. Huge business card she has. And then also joined is Angharad Trueman from CGT Lettings. I've been practicing the name. And now I've got the CGT wrong. But anyway, welcome all of you. We're going to start off the newspapers, first of all, with Sam, our usual contributor, a panelist. Hi, Sam. Good morning.
Good morning, Mark, and good to see you. Yeah, I suppose I do wonder. I think, by the way, these punchline briefings are great, and I hope they continue. And I just wonder if they continue long enough that the thing that isn't on all the front page is COVID. I suspect, we're in a bit of a battle, and that was highlighted for me. I bought the Times today, as well as that lovely picture in Aberdeen with the snow. The headline there is "Stay apart until autumn under lockdown easing," and what that was saying really was that regardless of what happens with vaccinations, regardless of what happens with the whole situation generally, the chances are we're all going to be living a slightly different life going forward. And reading that piece, and even from discussions I had recently with my wife, I've got a feeling that some people are never going to change. I mean, just before all this happened, I went to visit my daughter in New Zealand, and we had a stopover in Singapore. And I would estimate that 50% of the people had masks on. This was pre-COVID. They've been there before. They have problems with pollution and so forth, but it's become a way of life. And I think it's going to become a way of life. And so when it talks about we're going to be kept apart, there's going to be various lockdown rulings until autumn, I've got a feeling it'll be a semi-permanent effect. I'm not saying that's a negative thing. I'm saying it may be that some people will feel comfortable. I think perhaps when you visit London or wherever and you see usually Japanese tourists or in the Cotswolds with the masks on it, you double take now. I don't think we will in the future. I think you'll see particularly older people perhaps feel more comfortable that way. I've got a feeling that it's here to stay. And on the subject of things that are here to stay, we try and be positive throughout all this. And there's a little piece in the eye here. If you can just see that picture of that lady. Yep. That lady is 117. She's a nun. It was her birthday yesterday in France, where she celebrated with a glass of wine, survived COVID. So there you go, 117, drinks lots of wine. I added that bit, and has survived 2 world wars and COVID. So if she can get by, we can. So
thanks very much. So I totally agree with you. When we go to these business breakfasts in the future, just very quickly, are we all going to be kissing and shaking each other's hands and patting each other on the back and hugging each other?
It's a big problem for you, Mark. You are a natural hugger. You're gonna have to tie your hands behind your back, I'm afraid.
I'm a hugger and a squeezer. I guess I can't help it, but there we go. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Darren, welcome to Punchline Talks. This is your first show.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
What have you got for us this morning on the newspaper front?
Well, the first thing I'd better say is that you introduced me as Marketing Gloucester, so I've gained a new title.
No, I didn't. I'm really sorry, buddy.
As originally a Churchtown lad, though, I'd be quite proud of that.
Well, Prestbury marketing. There we go. 3 big.
That's right. So I've got a couple of stories for you. One business and one kind of personal finance. So the first one is it's actually in the Guardian, and it's quite a shocking statistic that 1 in 4 adults in the UK are considered at financial risk. And that basically means that 14.2 million people are considered to be at some risk of not meeting bills, not being able to pay utilities, not being able to put enough food on the table. And I've got my CCP mug with me this morning. And of course, what that does is that places pressure on all sorts of organisations. And I know that they've seen a massive increase in demand for food parcels, and it seems it's only heading one way. So that really is a concern. The other story, and it's slightly kind of marketing related, and you'd expect one of those, and it's about the fact that overnight, Pinterest saw its value climb by $3 billion. And the reason for that is that apparently Microsoft are looking at taking them over. Now that's going to be an interesting one because those are the people who know the social media world will know that they already own LinkedIn. So what with the power that Microsoft has anyway as an operating system, combine that with Pinterest and combine it with LinkedIn, and it would be a mighty beast. So it'll be interesting to see whether that's allowed to go ahead if it comes to play.
Great stories. Thanks very much, Darren. All right, Vikki, welcome to Punchline Talks this morning. What have you got for us?
Morning. Okay, so it's National Apprenticeship Week this week. So I got my story from The Sun, and I thought I would buy The Sun and The Guardian and compare the two. Okay, because not buying newspapers, whatever, and having to kind of stay away from certain subjects. The only thing I found in The Sun was about apprenticeship. So, like I said, National Apprenticeship Week this week. Links me into a kind of story that Punchline kind of ran this week as well. But it's saying that there are still apprenticeships out there. Weetabix have got some on, which are kind of like topical this week. Amazon, BAE, BT, Redrow, Premier Inn, etc. And I suppose the reason why I've kind of brought this up is I started off on a YTS. Everyone remember the YTS?
Yes.
Yeah. And the youth opportunity scheme. And it was such a brilliant experience. Yeah, I didn't get paid a lot, but it really helped. And I think apprenticeships are so fantastic. They're a great way that young people can really get that foothold and increase the confidence. I mean, I left after 6 months, I will admit. I was at Rolls-Royce, and but if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have had the confidence to go for the job that I did. And then, I stayed with that job for 30 years and did so many different things. And now I'm doing this. And it just goes to show that you might not have a clue what you want to do at 16, 17, 18 years old, but the apprenticeship is a fantastic way of just getting in there, finding out a bit about things. And I mean, this is a bit of a shameless plug for apprenticeships, but locally, there are so many companies offering apprenticeships locally. And I think the story that kind of I picked out on Punchline this week was the one around Co-op nationally and locally offering their levy up to smaller companies. So even smaller companies, it's not just about the big companies, it's about smaller companies getting involved and utilising the levy that comes to Gloucestershire County Council and other levy paying organisations. So that was my big thing there. And the second one, just very briefly, was holidays. I'm missing my holidays. But there's kind of something in The Guardian today around the holidays. And I've been looking and kind of, do we book a holiday? Don't we book a holiday? Lots of confusion. But what they're saying is the kind of stay at home, holidaying in the UK, prices have rocketed, more than double what they were last year. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? And then the other thing I picked out was the 1 in 4 people with financial, in debt, kind of like with financial stuff. Holidays aren't going to be possible for everyone. So it's kind of like that mix of, it's going to be great for the economy, but it's also going to start that divide again, about people can go on holiday, people can't go on holiday. So those are the things that I picked out this morning.
Very quickly then, I've actually already booked my holiday to Lundy this year in August to Lundy Island. Darren, would you book a holiday?
So yeah, I've booked a hotel in Spain in the hope, but it's on the basis that I can cancel up to 48 hours beforehand if I need to.
Sam?
Cornwall for a week in September. Looking forward to it.
And welcome to Angharad from CGT Lettings. Welcome to the show. Would you book a holiday?
Yeah, we actually have a holiday booked because we had one booked last year and had vouchers for it, so have rebooked it for this year for June in Mallorca, but risky, I think.
Ooh, yes. Anyway, welcome to the show. Fantastic to see you. And what sort of stories have you picked out for us today?
Right, thanks, Mark. I have picked out a couple of stories for you today. So the first one that I've noticed was in The Guardian. Oh, hang on, here we go. And it was with regards to an article about bosses making 1 in 5 people go to work unnecessarily. And I think this is quite interesting because personally in my industry, we are still able to operate. We've been allowed under law, but I know in my heart that the majority of our work we can do from home. As a letting agent, as an estate agent, of course we have to meet people. We have to meet people to do viewings and to do valuations, but actually, fundamentally, a lot of our work is paperwork, and we can do that from home. And it interests me why an employer would force someone to go into the office when they can keep them at home and still do the work. So that just is of interest.
Do you think that's a question of trust more than anything else?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's trust. I think it's, I mean, when you're in the office, especially if you're in a team, I think it is better to be in the office with teams, and especially for things like training. I feel like training online somebody brand new, it would be very difficult. But I think if you can have trust in your employees to get the work done and not be, I mean, I say to my employees, I'm not that interested in you being at your desk 9 till 5:30. You know what the job is, you know what it takes to get it done, and I trust you to get that done whilst you're at home. So I just think, yeah, maybe it is a question of trust for employers. They feel like they can keep an eye on them more if they're in the office. So yeah, that story was quite interesting. And the other story that I've picked out, again, kind of related, but is related to my sector actually, is in the Eye today, and it was with regards to cladding. So there's been something in the news this week with regards to the government unlocking further funding for cladding. Since Grenfell 3 years ago, this has been a hot topic. But unfortunately, there's a huge amount of buildings that aren't able to access that funding because they're under 18 metres high. And the government doesn't even know how many buildings this actually affects. And there's 2 case studies there of people who are saying it's affecting their mental health, they can't sell, they can't afford to live there. And I just think this is a real issue that's going to be building now over the next few months regarding what are people going to do about these buildings, because they're not safe to live in and they can't afford to fix them. So
I totally agree. I think it's absolutely disgusting. It should be the companies that build them. And why was that cladding allowed to be fitted on the first place?
Yeah. I know.
It was all about, let's be honest, it was all about the money. They took the money, it was cheaper, and they're all responsible, if you ask me. Not the government, not the taxpayer. It should be the building companies. That's my own personal view.
I agree.
Fantastic. Thanks ever so much. Right, we'll flip back over to Sam. Sam, let's talk about the general, the Federation of Small Business. You guys do a fantastic job lobbying our MPs. What's the big issue for small companies at the moment? Are lots of companies, I don't want to put words in your mouth, now running out of cash? Is this where we're at?
I think you're spot on there, Mark. In fact, I think we all actually picked up on that same story that's been in all the papers. It's in the Eye as well about. It says the finances of Britons are divided. Some people will get very angry when you start talking about holidays, saying, I don't know if I can afford to pay my rent next month, let alone think about going on holiday. Mm-hmm. And we appreciate that. And I think just as it is the same for individuals, I think it's the same for businesses. I think some businesses have done okay. They've done well. They've adapted, so they've been able to cut their costs and have been able to carry on. Some have just about made it, but a lot have really struggled. And we know, Mark, we've discussed it many times, that the self-employed directors of their own companies, they're the ones that just have had nothing. And we've been fighting for them since day one, and we won't give up. And we're still looking to March the 3rd, which is the budget, and I hope something will come for them. But there is that big divide. And you're right, those that were able to fall back on personal funding, their savings, the business's savings, that's all gone now. I mean, we can't forget, we're coming up to 12 months of this now. This has been extraordinary. I remember when we first finished lockdown, March the 26th, I was thinking in my own head, oh, well, you'll have a couple of months you're doing different. It'll be quite a novelty. Come August, September, we're back to normal. The kids will be back at school. Nearly 12 months. And I think for a lot of, I sense a lot of businesses that I talk to, patience has run out. The novelty aspect has gone, the savings have gone. They just want this thing to end, and they've done everything they can. Business has been brilliant, really trying to stick to the rules. I was concerned what was said earlier, and I agree with you about that trust issue. Some businesses, employers not trusting their people, but most people have adapted really, really well. But there's got to be an end. And like when you see those headlines about autumn, October, the same people who are thinking, I'm not going to be able to survive my household budget, there's businesses in the same position. So a real divide, and the sooner we can come out of it, obviously, the better for everybody.
The worst thing of all is, I think we're all relying, this particular, Gloucestershire, the avionics industry, the hospitality industry, the food industry, we're all really, really connected to those. And of course, every single one of us is connected to those different sectors. Like any kind of, like a war or something like this, there's always somebody making money. And then on the flip side of it, there's always somebody who's losing money. And the small independent and the one-man trader, I think they're really being left behind, but that's my own personal view. Darren, you're in marketing. What's it been like for you? Marketing and PR, well-known established business in the area. What have you seen over the last couple of months, and how has it affected your business?
So it's been pretty good on the whole. You know, at the start of the first lockdown, it was a concern because it went incredibly quiet, literally just for a couple of weeks. And then gradually it's been cranking up. And then as we've gone through successive lockdowns, I think those businesses that are able to trade, and I feel very sorry for those that aren't, but those that are able to trade have got very used to changing their operation and adapting. I think if you kind of compare this with other recessions, the difference for me with this one is that because it's been so prolonged and so public, I suppose, the reason for this is that whilst businesses have done what they typically would do, which is try and spend less on marketing, a lot of them have used the time to get their act into gear. So we're seeing a lot of organizations, you know, writing new business plans, sorting out their digital presence, improving their website. So I think that definitely feels distinctly different.
And also, I've seen a lot of companies rebranding. You know, they had a bit more time in their hands, so they've looked at rebranding. We've helped a number of companies do that ourselves, and I'm sure you and I have talked about it in the past. And you're right. I think the companies who have spent that extra bit of money on marketing, of course, I'm biased. We both are biased, but if you spend that bit of money, if you kick it forward, then you're going to be in a better place when this is all over, isn't it? Because you're higher up in the tree. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, very much so. I think that's always been the case. If you Google it or research it, organizations that keep marketing always emerge better out of recession. And I think now in the digital age that we're in, that's even more important. Because, you know, if, for example, you leave your website alone and you don't change the content and you don't do blogs and you don't do social media, then it's going to be so much harder to get the kind of traffic levels that you otherwise would have done. So, yeah, I totally agree.
I know how hot you are on social media as well, and tweeted very nicely this show as well. So thanks very much for that, buddy. Always great to see you. We'll grab you in a moment. Right, okay, Vikki, you work for the Gloucestershire County Council. You and I have been friends a long, long time. You've always been the champion of the people with disabilities, and sometimes the left behinds. So what's it been like for your guys, and how do you get people into work with a disability in a global pandemic? What are you doing? How's that going?
Well, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's across all vulnerable groups, not just disability, but kind of care leavers. And I mean, what we're seeing is obviously the rise in unemployment, rising young people not in education, employment and training. So it's going to be hard. We are still getting people jobs. It's a lot less than what we were this time last year. And I think in December was the first time that we had a month since we started the services that we didn't get somebody into working forwards. That's the first time ever. But it's tough. We're still doing it. I think for me, we're full. We've getting loads and loads of people who want to use the services. So we're, but we're still there. We're operating. We're still giving help. We're getting people into workplace. So what we're trying to do over the next kind of 6, 12, 18 months, however long it lasts, is to work with businesses across the county to get people into work placements so that they can actually then keep their skills going. Because I think the key thing is, I mean, similar to the conversation we've just had, if people just kind of step back and say, I'm not going to bother, there's a global pandemic, there's no jobs, then they're going to be in a worse place at the end of it than the people who kept on going. So what we're really trying with our people is to say, go into work placements, do some voluntary work, do some community action stuff, go out there, help people. Do you know what I mean? Keep your, go to training, use adult training, community learning, that type of thing to keep your skills going. So when we do start to come out of it, they will be in a good place. But yeah, we do have concerns. I mean, just a quick plug here, and I know kind of like I don't want to kind of step on Sam's toes. So Sam, we're come in with the brand new scheme Kickstart. So we've put forward, I think, 321, and FSB have certainly got a lot of opportunities on as well. So across the county,
what's 321 of what?
321 opportunities for young people to go into kind of businesses to start. They're paid 25 hours a week to start actually learning about the jobs. Amazing that the number of employers across all of the gateway organisations in Gloucestershire, ourselves, Gloucestershire, FSB. So there is still opportunity out there. there is still opportunity out there for people to enter business.
And what is Forwards Work Clubs? What is that? If you just want to give that a quick plug.
Yeah, so Forwards, we're not doing work clubs at the moment. So Forwards is a service which support, they've had to come down because of lockdown, obviously, support people with disabilities and health conditions, young people with other kind of, other challenges in the labour market into employment. And then the Gloucestershire Gem Project, which helps all vulnerable groups. So yeah, we've got a lot going on, but lots of opportunity.
Vikki, I know you're such a champion of it. You've been banging on my door for the last 10, 12 years, and nobody does more than anybody else than you do, and you're a great team there as well. So keep going.
We will, thank you.
And Angharad, right, okay, Harry, can you tell us please about your business, the Lettings? I'm assuming that you guys have done really well. There was that pent-up demand. You're one of the most established, well-known companies within Gloucestershire. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen, please, over the pandemic?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the lockdown has been strange for us, especially the first lockdown. We weren't able to operate, so things were a lot quieter, and we spent the time preparing for when we were allowed to open. And in May, the estate agency and letting industry was one of the first industries allowed to reopen, and we saw a huge surge in demand from people who were sick of being stuck at home, I guess. I think if you're unhappy in your home and then you're trapped in it indefinitely, I think it makes it even worse, doesn't it? So we definitely, since the first lockdown, we've seen this demand building, and it's continued really. The stamp duty holiday that was then announced in the summer has been fantastic for our sales side. And I think at the moment we are just experiencing such crazy levels of demand and a lack of stock. And what's happening is if a two-bedroom house can go in the market and it can get 100 applications or 100 inquiries over the weekend, that's not uncommon at the moment. We're getting we're booking, say, 6 viewings on a property, and every single person who views it is putting in an application to take it. So the demand at the moment is just fantastic. Wow. And I get asked all the time, is now a good time to be a landlord? And I mean, the government is always hitting landlords with more and more legislation, with tax changes. That happens all the time. But actually, any industry you're in where demand far outweighs supply is a good industry to be in. And that's what I say to landlords. Yes, now is a good time to be a landlord if you're thinking about investing, because you're always going to have tenants who want to live in that property as long as you buy the right one. So business has been good, challenging, just like for every industry, every business, I guess, we've had to go from being in the office to home working to back in the office to home working again. So that has its challenges. I have 45 staff, so it's it's hard mobilizing everyone back and forth all the time. But overall, yeah, I think we're doing really well. I'm very proud of my team, how much they care to look after their landlords and tenants, and hopefully this just continues this level of demand, and people can see that it's a good industry to stay in, really.
How many offices have you got now in Gloucestershire?
We've got 5 across Gloucestershire. 5
offices, 45 staff. I know when I first met you, if you don't mind me saying, you were very heavily pregnant. It was around a year and a bit ago, so you've got a young child as well. Trying to balance everything. I mean, yeah, must be very difficult sometimes to be the MD of the company, controlling all that.
Yeah, it is busy, and I also hold a voluntary position. I sit on the board for Arla Property Mark, and Arla Property Mark represents 17,000 members across the UK. So I juggle that with my day job and my looking after my child. So yeah, we have lots of parents working for us who are juggling the same things. So we've tried to put in place things to help them as much as possible.
I think that's the thing about this whole lockdown. What someone else said to me yesterday was about it being totally relentless. And if you're running your own company or not, it is just, that tells me we're slowly running out of time. One thing I was going to what I've got you, I have heard through various sources that one of the big problems in lettings, and especially house sales at the moment, are solicitors and conveyancing. And there's lots and lots of problems there at the moment. Are you finding that as well? There's a little bit of control going on. A lot of solicitors aren't playing ball. I know you're not going to name anybody, but it's getting quite bad. That's what I've heard from the grapevine.
Yeah, it is. I mean, before we used to moan about pipelines taking 3 months, and that was annoying before. Pipelines now are taking 4, 5, 6 months now to get through. And I think it's because of the increased workload, not just for estate agents, but also for solicitors and conveyancers as well. And as we near the cliff edge of stamp duty, and I know it's been debated in government just last week about whether they want to extend that, but as that cliff edge nears, the pressure is just mounting on all aspects of the industry, and it's just creaking really under it all. And yeah, solicitors are unfortunately bearing the brunt of everyone's frustration at the moment.
I think that's very nicely put, isn't it, everybody? Okay, let's go through the stories of what's caught your eye on Punchline as we're wrapping up the show. And let's start with you, Sam. Actually, we'll go back to you. What's caught your eye on Punchline this week, please? Thanks.
Well, two quickies. One, we talk about holidays. Cotswold Cottage Gems, 64% rise in bookings. You reported the day. That was great news. But the one that really made me smile was I'm a big fan, I know Mark is as well, of Gilman's, a very good traditional Gloucester firm that's done wonders over the years. And they've just gone back on the convention of current wisdom, and they've opened a new retail store out in Ross-on-Wye. And I absolutely love the quote, and it's going to be the quote for my day, actually, from the head of service, John Gilman, who told you guys, "We've never followed trends, and we've always made our own path. Continuing to evolve and having the courage to be different is important to us." And I thought, what a wonderful thing, you know, for everybody in coronavirus. Don't follow trends, make your own path, have courage and try and be different. And I really hope that's a success and it leads to a bit of a revival of companies like that on the high street, because we need them. So well done, Gilman's, and I wish you every luck.
It's funny because I deliver magazines down that way, obviously to Ross-on-Wye. I know exactly where their new store is, and there is a fantastic fish and chip shop nearby as well. And just very interesting. John Gilman sent me a very nice message on LinkedIn, and I took a photograph of him when he was a young corgi engineer, starting off at Gilman's, 18 apprentice he was. Really, really lovely message, and it goes to show the company's real family business, always done very well, worked really, really hard, great success. I'm with you on that one. Darren, what have you picked out, Punchline?
So I was going to go for Gilman's as well, so I'm swiftly changing tack. So I was going to highlight the story that you covered yesterday about AD, the people behind, you know, the radiator products, AD MagnaClean. Of course, recently they've been in the news because they're leaving Cheltenham, so that's Cheltenham's loss, but very much Gloucester's gain, where they're going to be moving to a new purpose-built headquarters. And you announced yesterday that they've been acquired by a company called, let me just see, was it Pipeline? Oh no, sorry, Polypipe, for 210 million. And I think what I love about Gloucestershire is we've got so many businesses like this. This was a business that was started in a shed in Prestbury about 15 years ago. So it's done remarkably well, and is going from strength to strength.
I totally agree. It's another success story for Gloucestershire. Vikki, what have you picked out for us?
Well, Gilman's, because I thought that was just an amazing story. Yeah. To see a local company kind of thriving. And obviously I've just mentioned it. It was really around the apprenticeships and the fact that Co-op are going to be, distributing their levy to smaller companies to use, but particularly targeting young people from BAMI backgrounds, which I thought was just a great thing to do, because certainly in Gloucester, we've seen kind of high levels of unemployment, more than double in Barton and Treadworth. And we know that COVID is adversely affecting people from those communities. So I thought that was a very good story. Okay,
thanks very much. Harry, what have you got for us?
So I was going to talk about the funding for the Portland Street car park being turned into homes being withdrawn, but then I thought, it's a bit negative. So I thought I'll end on a positive. So I've seen the story about Neptune Rum getting their 1.2 million investment. Yeah. I think that's a really positive story for the area, especially for that industry at the moment. You know, they're struggling at the moment, and I think securing that kind of investment is only going to be a good thing to boost the economy after we come out of lockdown. So yeah, really pleasing about that story.
Yeah, and nice guys too. 1.2 million quid. They sold 50% stake in the industry. 50% stake of the business, and that means they're going to kick on forward and do even better. And just so that you guys know, I've got my just to celebrate. I have got my own personal rum they gave me as well. So there you go. Which jolly nice stuff, I can tell you. So I'm saving that. Well, actually, I do have a little sip of it every now and then. So it's very good stuff too. Anyway, thank you ever so much. That's the wrap today. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for joining Punchline Talks. Thanks to my fantastic panel, and we'll see you next week.